Your will is your ability to focus. That's what it is. Like you hear people say, I'm going to will it into existence, as if there's this tension heavy pushing force that's attached to the will. Get that image of the will out of your mind if you have, because that's the kind of the image that I had growing up. Like you will it into existence, right? Like I'm going to force it, I'm going to push it, it's going to happen no matter what. Will is very relaxed. It's a conscious shift in your attention to what you're going to focus on. So it's controlled by your ability to choose, which is your greatest power. That means I can focus on whatever I want. However, if I don't know that I have the ability to do that, I become a puppet for everything in my life because I'm constantly like this. Something gets my attention over here, something gets my attention over here. I'm looking at this. I get triggered by that. And my focus changes based on how I feel and what stimuli are around me every single day. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous because, as I've told you before, whatever you don't consciously reject, you unconsciously accept. When I was younger, I grew up, we loved monster movies and scary movies and all that kind of stuff. One of my kids said to me, Dad, you don't really watch that stuff anymore. I said, I don't want it in my mind. And they said, yeah, but don't you think it's fun like when you used to? I'm like, well, not, no, no, I really don't. I was in a very different consciousness then. I said, but the problem is this, even if it's interesting, even if it was like a documentary about serial killers or something, right? I said, when you're sitting there watching that, you're letting that information come into your consciousness and it's shaping the way that you think. It's shaping your perception. It's shaping your understanding. And also, when you're watching something that somebody else created, you're also getting the intention of the message that they're sending with something. And I said, the second that you take your focus off of what it is that you're looking at, if you're not consciously saying, I completely reject this idea, it's going right in the subconscious. And even if you do that, if it's something that you're continuing to repeat all the time, like if you're around negative information or negative energy, it gets to the point where you can't reject it. So it begins to go into your mind, right? So the idea was I only want to focus on things that shape my mind in the direction that I want to go in my life, that create the life that I want to live. I don't want to get involved in anything else. The next thing here is that we have this interesting imagination. When you get triggered by something, let's say you're going through your day, you don't make enough sales, you get an unexpected bill, you get an argument with somebody quits, something that you would perceive as negative. You get triggered, what happens? Your focus or your will goes to that thing. And then because it's something that you've experienced before in the past, it engages your imagination without you even thinking about it. Whenever you doubt something, when you worry, when you're in fear, you're actively engaging your imagination around the negative. And when you engage your imagination around the negative, you've activated your creative faculty, which is your imagination, which you start then programming your mind with. If it's already programmed with something, you then start reinforcing it. Now, most people grow up with the lack of awareness around the idea that money is easy. You can make as much money as you want. There's nothing difficult about it. It's a hard slug all the way through their whole life, right? They're always worried about it. They're always concerned. The whole idea is how much money can we save? They don't even realize that they're trained to spend money from birth, but they're never trained how to earn. So they have years and years and years of experience around just that one idea that's not good. So now they get triggered by something. All of that memory that they have starts coming to the surface about the thing. They don't have to force themselves to think about it. They don't have to, and they generally don't intentionally, they're not like, I want to focus on this. They can't help themselves. Their mind immediately goes to the negative. So we've engaged the will, we've engaged memory, and we've engaged imagination around something negative, and we don't even realize we've done it. And the moment we do that, we're recreating the thing that we don't want. We're recreating the thing that we don't want. You've taken your God given higher faculties and you've used them in a creative way to manifest things that you don't want in your life, and you don't even realize you've done it. That's why most people's lives never change that much, because that's how they go through their whole life. They have whatever they're going to do today, and they start off their day, and then their mind gets triggered by various different things that are happening, which then controls their will or their focus. It engages the memory around what is this that I'm dealing with, and then they repeat it with their imagination. And they complain and they moan and they tell other people about it and they worry and they grieve. And what do they do when they do that? They reinforce it even more in their subconscious as a solid program in which to live from, which creates the same detrimental situations in their life over and over and over again. The thing is that it can be changed so easily. They just don't know that they've got the tools to change it. If you raised a kid and you told them, listen, you have the ability to focus. You can choose what you focus on every day. Whatever you run in your imagination, you will create in your life for real. And you can create a memory bank that does nothing but support what you want for the rest of your life. And you teach them at a young age to do that, actively helping engage that. Their life would be so different than most people's. But they don't teach that. They teach the opposite of that every day. So as we're going through our day, you have to ask yourself, like, look, what am I actually focused on? What am I using my imagination for? What if when something went the way that you didn't want it to go and it grabbed your will, so to speak, right? You had a reaction and you're focused on this thing over here that you don't necessarily want. It's a problem. Instead of engaging your imagination and start repeating, I can't believe this happened. What are we going to do now? I don't know where it's going to come from. You started using your imagination to create exactly what you want to happen. You would change the problem instantly. Now, does it take some practice? Sure, it does. But what you have to realize to start off with is that you're creating the problem that you're reacting to. Proctor used to call this the never-ending cycle of doom. We get trapped in it and it goes around and around and around and around. And we just keep creating it and creating it and creating it and creating it. And we stay completely stuck in that place, not understanding how to get out. Now, your imagination is your ability to create from the no thing or from nothing, because you can build an image, an idea, an experience in your mind that nobody has ever seen before. And if you focus your will on that thing, you will manifest it in your life. But here's something that's even better. You can take any memory that you have, any memory, and you could look at that memory with your will and you can reimagine it so that it supports you and that it's not something negative that triggers you. Let's say you have a couple that really bother you, right? Maybe it's a voice of somebody from your past or a past experience that keeps coming up, a trauma, a pain, something like that. You can take that thing and you could see it for what it is, and then you could close your eyes and begin to change it with your imagination. You can make it silly, you can make it fun, you can make it pleasurable, you can make it beneficial, because all it is a program in your mind. You have to remember, and this is hard for some people that are in a lot of pain, only because the pain is more important to them than the freedom around it. But anything that happened in your past doesn't exist anymore. It's not real. People hold on to it like, you know, they would die without it. All the pains and the problems and the traumas that you've experienced in your past, they no longer exist. They happened at one time, but they're no longer real. But if you run that problem over and over in your mind like a movie, it stays real to you. Well, why would you want that? I wouldn't want that. But yet, if you're doing it, something about you must want it. So you have to think about it for yourself. Like, why would I want to do that, right? What's the purpose of doing that? And there's reasons, believe me, there's reasons that will come up. Some reasons are that people have bonded over traumas, right? It's called trauma bonding. People have relationships over hard times that they've had in their life. And instead of bonding over good things, they bond over negative things. And that becomes the core communication when they're with that person. Yeah, you remember when this bad thing happened and that bad thing happened, but you don't have to remember it that way. You can change it. Now, I guarantee if you start changing these things in your mind and somebody else that was involved in it finds out, you're going to push back because they too believe that the memory that they have is real, as if it's happening right now, but it isn't. And with all the research that's been done around this, we now know that that most of the memories that we actually have didn't happen the way that we believe that they did. Although we believe that they happen that way. And you wouldn't convince somebody that it didn't. But the mind distorts things based on how it felt to you going through the problem that you originally had. But when it comes down to business, when it comes down to making more money, the idea would be that you don't let your present circumstances trigger your imagination to keep repeating the thing that you don't want. And you start using your imagination to build the idea of massive amounts of sales coming in. You getting the number that you want to sell at bigger and better and more beautiful every day, and that sales are coming easy to you. As you change the old memory and the new memory engages and you keep moving in that direction, it becomes easier and easier. I've got a win here from Diana that I forgot to read that just is perfect for this. She said to me yesterday, "Hello, David, a win. While on a short jaunt on the beach, I've closed over $8,000 of sales, and my salesperson has sold over 2,000. Grateful. Thanks too for the lessons on the paradigm and perception." Now think about that, right? How easy is that? It's getting easier, right? Most of you are experiencing it getting easier and easier and easier. And what's happening is that as that happens, it changes the belief system of everybody because we're all around it every day and we're experiencing something different. If you weren't around it, the only thing that you would be around is your own past experience, and it would become almost impossible to change because you also have in your own personal life, you have whatever the group think is in that personal life. But see, this is just the most absolutely incredible idea because when you change your will, when you learn how to control it, when you say, I'm in charge of what I focus on, not my emotions and not anybody else in my life. I'm only going to see with my imagination the thing that I actually want to see in my life. And then you begin to change your memory. Guess what that does for your perception? It completely changes your perception because then you have a projection into your conscious world all the time of only the good things that you want. And then over time, that begins to become a new reality, a completely new reality. So we started off with the idea of reason is your ability to think. I want to think in truth. And I only want to put true things that I want to create in my life into my imagination. I only want to see the good. I only want to speak about the good. I only want wonderful things, beautiful things in my life, regardless of anything else. And when something goes wrong, I'm going to imagine it going right, fixing itself, correcting itself, people buying, going out and asking again for the sale and asking again, seeing wonderful people coming to you, wanting to work with you, accepting your price. When you're in sales and you've got that point where there's a bit of resistance, you have to ask yourself, where's the resistance in my own life? That's just a manifestation of what's going on the inside. That's all it is. When you spend money with ease, when you receive money with ease, when you're able to give money away with ease, everything comes back into your life with ease. Everything that's difficult or hard or a struggle is because you believe that it's supposed to be that way. And it's easily changed. Imagine it being easy. When you do this, and then you come to me and you say, but the voice in my head, change the voice in your head. Part of the problem is also an authority problem. In other words, you have to constantly ask yourself, where are you projecting authority in your life? Do you believe that anybody has authority over you? Who are you behaving at like that has authority over you? And then who has authority over your thinking? When you say these voices in my head won't stop and I'm constantly getting triggered, when you say that, you're giving somebody else in your head authority. Take it away. Strip them of their authority. They have no authority over you. Imagine yourself just taking whoever that person is, that voice in your head that is constantly attacking you or disrupting you, and just saying, I completely strip you of your authority. You have no more authority in my life. And imagine yourself being in authority with that person. People cannot have authority over you unless you give it to them. That is now in the present, it's also in the past because you remember authority. Well, you can change all of that. You're not bound to anything that happened in your past. It can all be changed right now, exactly where you are. but you have to practice these principles. Don't stop here. If this message moved you, hit subscribe and keep building momentum with the next video in the playlist. And if you're ready to take this further, head to our website and grab the free resources waiting for you in the link below. They'll help you start putting this into practice right now.